Mark rescued Kelly and I, we didn't have any ability to even hope for good people. We didn't know they even existed. We didn't have a capacity to trust anyone. It wasn't within our realm of experience. I couldn't think to reason that Mark was a good guy. But I'd seen him with his animals. And even though I didn't have any ability to consciously reason, and Kelly didn't have any ability to consciously reason things out or to think things out, we had this extra sense developed. We sensed things very strongly. After all, when you consider that we use, 10% of our brain, we'd been like blasted into other parts of our brain, and these parts of our brain were real perceptive on what's considered, I suppose, psychic levels by some definition. When we had a sense for things, kind of like the animals did. And we noticed that the animals loved Mark. He had these raccoons that he'd rescued. He had 3 raccoons, and they all loved him, and they hugged him, and they wrapped their arms around his neck, and they patted on his face and kissed him. And, that was really a neat thing for us to see, because we had only seen our animals abused. We lived on a farm. We had lived on a farm, and we had dogs and cats and horses and cows and guineas and chickens and all kinds of animals, all of which Alex Houston tortured or killed to keep us in line to, if we didn't do this, this would happen to our pet. And we loved our animals. Please bear this in mind, that people who abuse children oftentimes abuse animals. If you see someone abusing an animal, keep your eyes open, look further, make sure those kids are safe. I've never seen an exception to this rule. Not that there's not one out there somewhere, but I've never seen an exception to it. So it was very telling to us that these animals loved Mark. Additionally, when he came in and rescued us, here we were under the gun of the CIA. Everything was very precarious, to say the least. I was 30 years old. I was supposed to be killed, as most mind-controlled slaves are at the age of 30. Besides, I was considered too old for sex by that time, so I was supposed to be wiped out. But Mark came in and rescued me from certain death, and rescued my daughter from a fate much worse than death, and took the time to rescue our animals. He packed up all those cows and horses and guineas and chickens and loaded them up on these different trailers and everything, and brought them to safety as well. This had a profound impact on Kelly and I. We certainly developed an ability to trust right there and then. Mark took us to the safety and serenity of Alaska. Since we were safe for the first time in our lives, experiencing love for the first time in our lives, memories of our past began flashing on our mind's screen. As these memories flashed, and I started to remember what had happened to me and to my daughter, particularly during the Reagan-Bush administration, I became enraged. I was enraged at what my daughter had been through, the tortures I'd endured, and what the plan was for humanity as a whole. I'd have been blinded by that rage, immobilized by that rage, if it weren't for Mark's wisdom in telling me that the best revenge is total recovery. Because through total recovery, by photographically recording all those events, I could expose these people for exactly what they are, for what their plans are, for what I witnessed behind the New World Order. Be able to get help for my daughter, who was in desperate need of help at that particular time. So I began writing out my memories. By writing out my memories, I used a different part of my brain than verbalizing. It bypasses emotion. Bypassing emotion was very necessary for logically making the incomprehensible comprehensible, for understanding and grasping what had happened to us and what could be done with that information. Kelly was not so fortunate. Because of the harmonic programming that she'd endured, remembering the traumas and deprogramming the program did not allow her access to all parts of her brain as it did me. She still needed some technological equipment to help her recover. She needed to actually have those neuron pathways vibrated back open with harmonic equipment. Therefore, she went into Humana Hospital in Anchorage, Alaska, in an intensive care unit. She suffered horribly at that time and responded only to some psychological intervention and not to any conventional medications. Kelly was actually suffering respiratory failure because mind control has advanced to the point where they know the ins and outs of the brain and the mind so well that they know how to program not only the subconscious, but to go into the primitive mind, the very area of our mind where blinking, breathing, and circulatory, heartbeat, all that is regulated. And they could go in there and put death programs in place. In my daughter's case, it was respiratory failure, so that in the event that she ever had cause to remember, which they never expected could happen, but in espionage, that can happen. We've heard of that, where the brainwashing, where they have the memory access. So they wouldn't have to take the old cyanide pill anymore like they used to, like spies used to. Instead, they would just simply go into respiratory failure, circulatory failure, and no information would be released at all. There was no chance of the information getting out that way. Since my daughter was being raised was genetically and mind controlled, being brought up to be in espionage, she had that program in place and it went into effect. Because of the medical attention that she needed, she became quickly thrust into the illegal and immoral custody of the state of Tennessee, where she remains today. The violations of laws and rights that proliferated in her so-called legal case were extensive. We had one clean district attorney that went in and told the judge that he was violating constitutional rights and human rights in my daughter's case, and cited law after law after law, and the judge interrupted him and said, but laws do not apply in this case for reasons of national security. This certainly raises a question. What does national security have to do with a documented, validated, and proven rape and molestation of a child's mind and body? For Kelly's sake, and the sake of so many other mind control survivors out there, we need to lift this veil of national security. We need to repeal the 1947 National Security Act. This is the national security that's threatening the security of our nation when it covers up such crimes against humanity as mind control, when it covers up the CIA's so-called war on drugs, when it covers up the selling out of our country to New World Order controls. That's a national security that has nothing to do with the security of our nation. This national security has kept information pertaining to mind control for all of you for far too long. We've got to get this information out. We've got to arm others with knowledge on mind control, because knowledge is our only defense against mind control. We need to get this information out in detail so that we can all be more effective in our particular areas of taking back our country and ultimately taking back our world for Kelly's sake, for the sake of all the other mind control survivors and victims that I know are out there. There's many, many of them. And for the sake of humanity as we know it. It is truth that sets us free. Please help us spread the word. Thank you. Think to save my daughter any more than I could think to save myself. And all those childhood hopes and dreams were certainly certainly hadn't come.
On August 3, 1977, Cathy O'Brien testified to the 95th U.S. Congress to accuse Hillary Clinton of rape, and that she was a sex slave for Hillary and Bill Clinton, who are bisexuals, affiliated in an elite sex trafficking ring that abuse and purchase and sacrifice children. Now, I'm going to say right here that I've read Cathy's book at least twice, maybe 3 times. She related one incident where Hillary Clinton raped her. I don't remember, and I could be wrong, but she said that Bill Clinton was more towards the homosexual side, and I don't remember her relating any specific incident where he raped her. So I don't think she was just a sex slave for them. You know, Hillary did supposedly access her. So just wanted to throw that in there.
All those angels running, picking up the pieces, putting back together hearts.
I don't know what this guy means about him posting misinformation, but the video seems like it's been altered in some way to me. I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I've supported Cathy for over 20 years, about 24 years. But I don't think Cathy is in control of her own faculties at this point. It's very sad, but I think she's been re-accessed.
Traumatizing MK Ultra mind control experience that I've had was the most dangerous game of human hunting. No matter what the weather, I didn't have any clothes and was turned loose in the woods and then literally hunted by men with guns, and never knowing whether or not I would actually be shot. They used hunting dogs to track, which was really, really traumatic. And of course, it was kind of designed to where there's no place to run, no place to hide, because there was no way to get away from them. And it was at one of those human hunting places that I saw George Bush Jr. hunted just as I was. And his own father and Dick Cheney were a part of extreme trauma base for him, because they were creating a Manchurian candidate who would become president. Go on. So the folks stay in the tornado, stop eating cake. It was absolutely horrible that anybody was being hunted. And I've always had extreme compassion for George Bush Jr. It was an effort to be able to keep all the power.
Listen hard.
I'm the survivor of CIA and Ultra mind control. I was used on the White House Pentagon level by the same perpetrators that steal elections and use biological and psychological.
Join Cathy O'Brien as she shares information about MK Ultra mind control and the methods she used to heal from it. Knowledge is our defense against mind control, and Cathy's experience empowers her insight into the far-reaching effects of mind control on society today and what you can do to reclaim, protect, and expand your free thought. Voice to Skull versus Program. February 28, 2024. Messages I was programmed to deliver to and from government leaders were always parroted verbatim using voice inflections of my programmers. As a CIA MK Ultra mind control slave, working White House Pentagon level operations, I was programmed on various military, NASA, and DARPA installations. It was understood by MK Ultra puppet masters that our brains photographically record events surrounding trauma as part of our innate defense mechanism. This photographic memory is how Manchurian candidate presidents, for example, can deliver a speech perfectly despite being unable to articulate a response to spontaneous questioning. Think George Bush Jr. A lifetime of strategic torture and scientific conditioning rendered my photographic memory easily accessible and programmable. Therefore, I was used as a messenger in conjunction with drug and human trafficking black ops throughout my victimization. When I delivered messages, my voice photographically parroted my programmers. I used their inflections and could parrot messages in any programmed language with no capacity to interpret or understand. I could not think to answer spontaneous questions, yet could receive photographically recorded response to take back and deliver to those who had the codes, keys, and triggers to access it. Okay. Is that what she's doing now? Is Sasha Stone really her friend? Or is he a handler? Is she just parroting something that she knows to be true, but she really has no control over it? That's what I believe right now. And Cathy, if this ever gets back to you, and this is not the truth, then please contact me. We've had many conversations. We've been friends for many years. Contact me and explain to me why you're interviewing and doing this for all these grifters. We're trying to help you. Consider how amazing our brains are to have such photographic capability. Consider, too, how this parallels many reported voice-to-skull experiences. After intelligence insider Mark Phillips rescued me in 1988, my mind began flashing memories of my MK Ultra mind control experience. By writing out these flashes by hand, I was able to access repressed memory and remember it in the photographic detail my brain had recorded it. As I wrote, I could hear my programmer's voice in my head, verbatim, exactly as the MK Ultra programs were instilled. This photographic recording made it easier to accurately remember my tortured past through deprogramming the program first. This helped me see through deliberate scrambles and implanted diversionary false memory to access the reality of government secrets I was exposed to for decades. When my photographic memory first surfaced and I heard voices of my programmers in my head, I did not understand what was going on. Had I sought help outside myself, rather than go within to find my answers, I would likely have been misdiagnosed as schizophrenic. If I had gone online, like many survivors do today, seeking answers outside themselves while still highly suggestible, I would likely have gravitated to reports of voice-to-skull programming. So did you hear what she just described? Listen to it again. Is this what's going on with her right now? I believe Cathy's telling the truth. I believe that she's doing the best that she can, but that she has been reaccessed. So, think about it. Look at the shows that she's been on. Who are her handlers? Who are Roseanne Barr's handlers? Was the voice to skull used on her? She's a human being. She went through some horrific things. But Cathy is not herself right now. I'm sure of this. How can we help her? Memory does sound this way. Fortunately, I did not look outside myself for answers. Mark Phillips reminded me my answers are within, and to ask myself, whose voice is that? And write it out. What is that voice saying? Write it out. How did you get there? Write it out. Where did you go after? Write it out. Since the act of moving a pen requires the logic part of the brain, repressed traumatic memory was switched over to critical analysis, where it was then consciously viewed in front of me on paper. This allows for healing on many levels at once. Most importantly, it opens neuron pathways in the brain, freeing up compartmentalized repressed memory. By opening those neuron pathways through writing, rather than vocalizing, the information does not recompartmentalize and triggers are diffused. I often hear from targeted individuals who applied PTSD, time to heal, to themselves to reclaim and retain self-control and free thought by writing out what they hear in their head. Reports of voice-to-skull programming can be perceptual distortion of repressed memory. When reports of voice-to-skull abuse include repetitious phrases an abusive parent would use, for example, "You are worthless and no good, you can't do anything right," it may well be repressed memory photographically surfacing. Write it out. Regardless of the content, commands, or dark subject matter, write out what you are hearing inside your head. It may well be repressed memory intruding on the present rather than a real-time voice-to-skull experience. Once we remove the misperceptions of abuse victims and survivors from the voice-to-skull equation, we can then differentiate mind control from the technology weaponry that is being used. Military applications of this technological advancement have been used for decades. Who knows with what frequency it is used today on innocent citizens? We will find the truth when we separate voice-to-skull capabilities from photographic mind control programming. In all cases, knowledge is our defense against mind control. Understanding our own mind, brain function, and response mechanisms will arm us with truth that makes us free. We hope you enjoyed the preview of this video. If you would like to view the rest of this video, please log in. Don't have an account yet? So I've never seen where Cathy made anyone log in. Never saw that. I don't know who all these people are. I'm worried about Cathy.
Listen hard.
I'm a survivor of CIA and ultra mind control. I was used on a White House Pentagon level by the same perpetrators that steal elections and use biological and psychological.
And that's all they let you watch unless you log in, and I really don't want to do that right now because I don't believe she's in control of this. If I'm wrong, Cathy, if you by any chance see any of this, I'm trying to help you and I'm praying for you. So I'm going to try to make this big enough where I can see it. Undetermined or unidentified white female between the age of 8 and 10 years old. Subject underwent 5 or 6 months of treatment using something doses of LSD, electroshock, and sensory deprivation. Experiments under codename MK Ultra. Above early 60s. Subject's memory was erased, and her brain is that of a newborn baby. Someone I met on here, Ellen, calls herself MK Ultra Girl, believes this to be herself. It does look like her, and I believe her. Project MK Ultra was a mind control research operation carried out in the United States as well as other countries like Canada by the CIA. MK Ultra conducted many different illegal experiments on U.S. and Canadian patients without them knowing exactly what was being done or why. Many of the experiments were so bad that much of the experimentation was done in Canada and other foreign countries to escape United States jurisdiction. It was done here too. The project started in 1950 and lasted until around 1973. That's what they say. But it's still going on. Experiments conducted on unwilling humans and children, including things like torture, verbal and sexual abuse, electrical and chemical shock, the effects of stress on humans, interrogation techniques, subsonic and vibrational disorientation, drugs, radiation, genetic research, brainwashing, the use of prostitutes by agents, gases, and poison. This was something that Cathy posted herself. So consider what she's saying here. And what I'm saying, I truly believe has happened to her. Oftentimes, that's due to reprogram, over the top of program. Many cults reprogram, leaving survivor vulnerable. Government secrets and personal reputations were staked on belief I could only be reprogrammed. Paradigm shifted when finding out I am deprogrammed, as per PTSD. Time to heal. Has Cathy been reprogrammed? Please pray for Cathy and all the victims of this horrible atrocity. Thank you. And that's just a repeat of that. Pray for all the victims. There is no force greater than the strength of the human spirit, embraced in light of free thought while deep state minions fear it. Well, there is a force greater than the strength of the human spirit, and that's God. And our Messiah, Jesus Christ of the Nazarene. This was, or this is, on the front of a card that Cathy sent me. Sunflowers were, and that is there is a real sunflower that has that heart shape in it. But she put a little pearl, heart-shaped pearl in the middle of that on the card. It was a Valentine's card. I just want you to know that I'm not lying. My name's Wanda, and my husband's name's Robert. And this was the card that she sent to us. Embrace the day, always love, always, Cathy. And then this is what she wrote to me when I started asking questions on Twitter, because I do not believe Cathy's any longer in charge of her Twitter account or her emails or any of that. So I received this as a personal message on Twitter. Wanda, why did you, of all people, say that about my daughter? My daughter is precious and very close to me. This girl claiming to be her is pitiful. What is up with you, friend of so many years? See what I'm saying? That doesn't sound like anything Cathy would have ever said to me. Whoever wrote this is not Cathy. Just want to make that clear. This was written by Kelly Cox O'Brien. Wayne Cox was her father. Cathy was married to him. So maybe we can get through to this person to reach Cathy O'Brien to help her. A live video is best to verify it's not Michaela Miller or someone with a dark web app responding as Cathy. I'm her kid and was never returned after charter. Sent to ex, sister wife of Wayne Cox. She posted these on Twitter. Kelly O'Brien Cox. She posted a picture of her mother. These are some of the people. I don't know who the one on the top left corner and the one on the bottom right corner is, but I most definitely see Sasha Stone. And Sasha Stone and Patriot Street Fighter. And then there's Cathy on the left. That's one of her happier time pictures. I don't know Dr. Keck. This is someone else that has had her on the show. So I'm just going to let you watch the slideshow now. You can see faces. Maybe some you recognize, you don't. I'm not claiming that all of these people are handlers. But there's some very specific ones in here. God bless. We were talking about some stuff on Twitter, and someone asked me this question. I'm interested in learning more about Mary Crowley and why you think she handles Cathy O'Brien. Also, do you believe the stories emerging from the account claiming to be Cathy's daughter? My discernment believes Cathy is still highly controlled, sadly. My response, I had never heard of her until a month or so ago. It was because I saw her interviewing Cathy. Then I connected Mary Crowley to 107 because I found a video on YouTube at the Open Heavens Conference where she prophesied over him that he was God's main chess piece on God's chessboard and a chosen son. Cathy knew he was a fraud and said he was trying to get her to interview with him, but she refused because I warned her about him. She tried to tell Roseanne the truth, and she told me she told Roseanne, but Roseanne refused to listen. So I had warned Cathy about 107 and also asked her if she would tell Roseanne that he is a lying fraud. And she said she did tell me that she told her, but Roseanne had a mind of her own and she wouldn't listen. But that 107 had tried to get an interview with her, and because of the warning, she refused to interview with him. But then she went on to interview with all these other grifters that are associated with one. So I said, I believe most, if not all, the shows she interviews on are handlers. There may be some of them that don't know any different or don't know any better, who don't know what's going on with Cathy And I know some people, call me crazy, but I've known Cathy for around 24 years and had conversations with her by email, snail mail. Up until Mark passed away in 2017, December, I think, 2017, I had communicated with him and spoken to him on the phone. But that's a long story. But I know enough about Cathy to know when I'm listening to her and when I'm not listening to her in an email or a text. That's why I included the text she sent me on Twitter after I had found out about her daughter, Kelly. I never said anything about Kelly. So that email is in one of the gifts that I put on this previous video. But I said, in the end, her story will no longer be credible if she keeps going with, and I think that's what they're trying to do. They're using her for sensationalism. They're using her for money, for clicks, and God knows what else. I said, she is either back under their control and is just delivering her message, which she is repeating by rote over and over, or I've been severely deceived over the past 24 years of friendship with her and Mark. I'm also in contact with Kelly, whom I sincerely believe is really Cathy's daughter. She knows a lot and has come on here to try and save her mom. That's what I'm trying to do as well. Please pray for them. They're planning on taking Cathy to Mount Shasta in the near future. That's an extremely bad thing. And this person interested said, thank you, Wanda. It's heartbreaking watching much of this play out, and I continue to pray for the truth to be revealed and deception broken. Thank you for sharing what you have observed. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to tack that on here. I have so much more I could put in this video, but I don't want to make it any longer. So be diligent. Watch your back. Watch others' backs. And don't fall for these grifters. Go search out all the people who have had Kelly on their shows. Not Kelly, I mean Cathy. Search them out, mark them, and watch. God bless you.